If you were rich, what would your lifestyle be like? Would you drive around in fancy sports cars, vacation in exotic destinations, and live in the biggest mansion in your town? For those who have not yet achieved their own dream-rich life, the perks of being wealthy seem plentiful, but the reality is that being rich isn't as perfect as many people perceive it to be. In fact, the lifestyle of the rich may be vastly different than how you picture it in your mind. Therefore, in this article, I will share with you 7 shocking truths about being rich that will open your eyes to what being rich is all about. Truth number 1. The more money you have, the more you want. As the number of millionaires and billionaires in the world climbs ever higher, there is a growing number of people who possess more money than they could ever reasonably spend on even the luscious goods. But at a certain level of wealth, the next million isn't going to suddenly revolutionize their lifestyle. With that being said, it's worth asking the logical question of why the rich continue to pursue money even when they have more than enough. A 2018 study conducted by a Harvard Business School professor determined that there were 2 central questions that people ask themselves when determining whether they're satisfied with an aspect of their life. The first is, am I doing better than I was before? And the second is, am I doing better than other people? This applies to wealth, but also to attractiveness, height, and other things that people fret about. Now, the trouble with these questions is that many of them are hard to measure. For instance, if you wanted to gauge how good of a parent you are compared to other parents, that would be hard to measure. But money, well, money is easy to measure. To answer the first question of whether you are doing better than before, this can be easy to measure with money. More money means more success, and less money means less success. Second, money is an easy benchmark to use when comparing yourself to others. You either have more money than your friend, neighbor, or business competitor, or you don't. Truth number 2, being rich doesn't guarantee happiness. We all know someone who constantly says, "When I'm rich, then I'll be happy." The sad truth is that becoming rich doesn't mean that you will be guaranteed a life of true happiness. In fact, money can only make you happy up until a certain point, and then any additional money you have plays no part in your day-to-day happiness. Now, I am sure you've heard amounts thrown around regarding how much you need to earn to be happy. Maybe that number was $50,000, $75,000, or even $100,000, but in 2018, an extensive study was done to finally figure out what amount of annual income provided the most happiness in a person's life. Psychologists from Purdue University and the University of Virginia analyzed World Gallup poll data from 1.7 million people in 164 countries and cross-referenced their earnings and life satisfaction. Although the cost and standard of living vary across these countries, researchers came up with a bold conclusion. The ideal income for individuals is $95,000 a year for life satisfaction and $60,000 to $75,000 a year for emotional well-being. The study, published in the journal Nature Human Behavior, found that once that threshold was reached, further increases in income were actually associated with reduced happiness. And this makes sense because generally the more you make, the more effort and stress you endure, which is why being rich isn't the ticket to ultimate happiness. Truth number 3. Being rich can ruin your relationships. Ask just about any wealthy individual, and they will tell you that their relationships with others are much more important than the cars they own or the designer clothes they wear. And while these relationships mean more than money, money often ruins many of the relationships that the rich have built over time. For instance, if you are someone who grew up in the lower or middle class and have now become rich by building your own business, you may have friends or family asking you for loans or monetary gifts. These individuals will assume that just because you have money to spare that you are willing to part with the cash you have worked insanely hard to acquire. Another relationship that being rich can ruin is the one you have with your children. You see, most rich individuals don't just sit around all day watching their children grow up in front of their eyes. As I've previously mentioned, many of them continue to work to make more money, and this requires the investment of time which detracts from their time at home. When taken to the extreme, this can place a large strain on family relationships. Moreover, it's not uncommon for rich individuals to pass along their fortunes to their kids. Now, while you may wonder why this would ruin a relationship, it can, in fact, detract from the child's life satisfaction over time. For instance, if they inherit enough money to never have to work, then they may lead an empty life given that they never had to work to achieve the financial goals that the average person must work towards, like buying their first home or saving up enough money to retire. Truth number 4. People see you for your wealth and not your personality. What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear the name Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, or Mark Zuckerberg? For most people, the word is rich or billionaire or wealthy. What I'm getting at is that you attribute a term relating to financial success to their name, and when you become rich, this is often how people see you. You are primarily judged by your wealth and not your character. For instance, people never talk about how kind or thoughtful Jeff Bezos is, but rather whether Amazon's stock has risen or fallen in the past quarter. Therefore, one of the realities of becoming rich is that you tend to become seen as a number rather than the wonderful human being you are. Truth number 5. Becoming rich means having to make significant life sacrifices. When people think of the rich, they think of the output of their hard work, which is money, fancy cars, and big houses. However, not many people appreciate how much hard work it takes for the rich to amass the wealth they have. For instance, a millionaire that makes their money as an executive at a company has probably invested years upon years into their education and has worked more 80-hour workweeks than they can count. Alternatively, those who made their fortunes by building a business have not had it any easier. Roughly 20% of small businesses fail in their first year, 30% of small businesses fail in their second year, and 50% of small businesses fail after 5 years. This is all to say that becoming rich isn't easy, and the accumulation of this wealth comes with a cost. For instance, the average income earner may not make as much money, but they also have time to watch endless amounts of TV every night, or spend more time with their family. Truth number 6. Being rich means paying less tax. Almost a decade ago, Warren Buffett made a claim that would become famous. He said that he paid a lower tax rate than his secretary, thanks to the many loopholes and deductions that benefit the wealthy. His claim sparked a debate about the fairness of the tax system. In the end, the expert consensus was that, whatever Buffett's specific situation, most wealthy Americans did not actually pay a lower tax rate than the middle class. But times have changed and the wealthy are now, in fact, paying lower tax rates than their middle-class peers. For the first time on record, in 2018, the 400 wealthiest Americans paid a lower total tax rate, spanning federal, state, and local taxes, than any other income group. Now, this hasn't always been the case. In fact, in the 1950s and 1960s, the wealthy paid vastly higher tax rates than the middle class or the poor. However, over time the tax laws have changed dramatically, with many of these modifications improving the tax consequences of the rich. Truth number 7. The richer you are, the more risks you want to take. Most wealthy individuals know that the saying, "No risk, no reward," is true, and because the majority of them want to continue to grow their wealth, they must continue to increase the risks they take in their financial life. This is why you see investors on shows like Shark Tank invest millions of dollars in new startups, as the risk of investing in something new may lead to more money in their own pockets. The other aspect of taking more risk is that it offers excitement. Not knowing whether your idea will work or not is what motivates the rich to succeed and then try their luck at new ventures after they've already amassed more money than they could ever spend. Take Elon Musk as a prime example. After selling PayPal, he could have easily retired, but instead, he used that money to start new ventures like SpaceX and Tesla. We now know that both these companies would become successful, but, at the time, the success in starting a space exploration or electric car company wasn't guaranteed. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you find it educational.